Hey, it's John. Welcome back to this show, and welcome back to the latest edition of the Live Cuts. The premise of this series is to talk about a live album that doesn't get enough love or recognition. My guest with me today, you may know from the Contrarians. He is one of the most astute analysts from the Contrarians, and he was one of the first members of the Contrarians. Matt Thompson, welcome to my show.
Thank you, John. It's great. It's been a while since we've done a Contrarians episode together, so I'm really excited that we get to talk about an album that I really enjoy.
I am as well, and it's been too long. And I said that to Matt before I pressed the record button here today. Today, we are going to discuss Blackfoot Highway Song Live. This was released in 1982 on Atco Records. This was recorded during their tour of the UK for the Marauder album, and they used the Rolling Stones mobile studio unit in order to record this album. The musicians on this album are the original Blackfoot. We have Ricky Medlock on lead vocals, lead and rhythm guitar, Jackson Thunderfoot Spires on drums and vocals, Greg T. Walker on bass guitar and vocals, Charlie Hargret on lead and rhythm guitars. This was produced by Al Nally. This album was originally released on Atco, but I believe it went out of print really quick. And in 2002, it was released on Wounded Bird Records. So, Matt, what was your first experience with Blackfoot's music?
So I had heard some of their radio hits in the early '80s. So "Train Train" being the biggest, "New Highway Song," and "Purchase Strikes." So enjoyed those, and so "Strikes" was my first album. So that's the I believe the first of those Al Nally produced ones. Yeah, I did bring some of the props here as well. So we got
All right.
the vinyl
Nice.
ones. That's the one I got. Um, and so he was a manager. They had done two albums prior to Strikes that didn't really do anything, and he was the manager for Brownsville Station, and he recorded them. He was out of Ann Arbor, Michigan, so then they were based out of there for a while. And so, anyways, knew them through that. And then I did get to see them a couple of times in the '80s. I saw them on a festival show with other bands, and this was. I believe it's the Bobby Barth was in the band for this, so they had the
Okay.
second
That was like the
guitarist.
late 80s, right?
It's early, mid.
Okay.
So
Hensley?
Ken Hensley joins, right? He's on Siogo, and he's in there for a short bit, and then Barth was in there for a short bit. So it's that time period around there. So probably around Vertical Smiles, I guess. I'm not exactly sure at this point. So saw them there, and then I later saw the remade Ricky Medlock and Blackfoot of the '80s
Okay.
version, which had like Wizard was the bassist, and they had a keyboardist in the band. And it was really interesting because when I saw them on the festival show, that was a big crowd, and they pulled out all the stops. They had the sort of the real um, big kind of stage show. It felt like the album we're going to be talking about, and they killed, right. They were great, and it went over really well, even though they were not the headliners of the festival. And then I later saw them again in the '80s, but this was after the commercial downturn had really happened, and after Ricky had split from the other three original members, and it was in a small club in Providence, Rhode Island.
Okay.
There was probably, it may have been under 100 people at the show, and they still killed. Like Ricky Medlock put out like he was in front of 20,000 people. And so that the live ethic, and he's been the most professional member of Skinner for decades now.
That's true.
He's a pro, right? And he delivers it no matter what the audience was. So I've been a fan for a long time, since the early '80s, and would love to hear how did you get turned on, and when did you see him?
Okay. Well, I bought this cassette in 1989 or 90. The reason I bought Strikes was because they played Highway Song and Train Train on Rock 107 WEZX FM, Scranton, Pennsylvania, still locally owned and operated. They were the only two songs they played on Rock 107. Back then, they had a very big playlist. So I bought this based on hearing them on Rock 107. I didn't, and I kind of fell off the map with them for a long time. And then maybe 10 years ago, I picked up this original album series. And this has Strikes, Tomcattin, Marauder, Shiogo, and Vertical Smiles. And I believe right after that was the first time I saw them. And that would have been 2016 when they were promoting the Southern Native album. Now, at this point, Ricky owned the name, and he's been doing this for a long time. He's just been putting a band out there as Blackfoot. And sometimes he shows up, sometimes he doesn't. The first 3 times I saw him, he didn't show up. It was just the band that he put out. But those 3 times that I saw them, they killed. They had that spirit, even though totally different guys. The first 2 times I saw them, first time they were a special guest for Foghat.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and that was on the Southern Native tour. And speaking of props, I liked the stuff they did for Southern Native so much that night I bought the CD. And this is a good album. It's in the spirit of Blackfoot, not so much the sound of the classic albums, but still really good album. And the next time I saw them, they were a headliner in a small theater that held 325 people. It's the Sellersville Theater. The third time I saw them was at Penn's Peak in Jim Thorpe, Pennsylvania. And I got the shirt here. And the first time I saw them was at Penn's Peak instead, and as well. But this time they opened for Accept.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, they opened for Accept, totally different band. This was a band, instead of young guys, they were probably guys in their 50s or so. But again, they killed. They got an hour. They played all the goods. They played like 2 songs off Southern Native, and everything else was Marauder and back, right? The last time I saw them was in January of 2025. My friend Nick Esquire and I went to see them, along with his girlfriend Stacy, and it was Ricky Medlock and Blackfoot. So it was Ricky Medlock, his wife was doing vocals, and a bunch of other guys who were all talented musicians. And that night, it was more like the Ricky Medlock career show, but except Ricky Medlock and Blackfoot on the marquee. So that night, they're doing Blackfoot. They open with Sitting on Top of the World, the old blues song, right? And they did Rolling and Tumbling Blues, a song we're going to talk about a little later. But they're doing a lot of Skinner. They're doing a lot of Blackfoot. And that night, and this is something that I didn't realize at the time we saw them, they did 2 songs off of Skinner's First and Last.
Nice.
Yeah. And this vinyl, my buddy Jim McGuire, hello Jim, he gave me this 10 years ago. He gave me all of his vinyl. So they played 2 songs off this album that night, and I didn't really realize it until later on. They played White Dove and they played The Seasons, and Ricky wrote those songs when he was in Leonard Skinner before they had a record deal. And they put this out. A lot of people probably already know this. They put this out after the plane crash that killed Ronnie Van Zant and Stephen Cassie Gaines, they put this album out, and after they had broken up the first time. So, but that was an interesting show too. And Ricky still sounded great. He still looked great. And the band were in fine form throughout. It was a kick-ass night. But every time I've seen them, they always delivered. The fact that they played with Foghat and they played with Accept is a really cool thing. Because for all of you who don't really know Blackfoot were like the heaviest of the Southern rock bands. So they can play with bands that are very like a boogie band, like Foghat, or a traditional heavy metal band like Accept, and they still fit in. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So they're just a kick-ass band. So we're going to talk about Highway Song Live tonight. This album was released in 1982, and we don't have exactly where this was performed. You go on Wikipedia, you go on here, it just says it was on a UK tour. I've seen varying cities where this was performed.
Yeah, my understanding is that it's almost all from at the Hammersmith.
Okay.
Yeah, and so there's the one. Side two opens up, right. Road Fever. That one's from Edinburgh in Scotland, and the rest. And I think also the Away the Lads, right, is which we'll talk about in a bit, right? Like, so that that's an important Geordie chant, right? So but I think other than those two, I think everything else, from what I understand, is was at Hammersmith. But it's all from that. It's all from the same tour. And Wikipedia is not right, right? They talk about how it's from the Zurich
Correct. That's where I was going.
show, which is what the video, like there's videos they made at that time, which has some of the same songs, but completely different versions. These are not the Zurich recordings.
And plus he says Hello London at the beginning of the album.
Yeah. That should be the first clue.
Exactly. So this album is primarily songs from the 1979 album Strikes, 1980s Tomcattin, 1981's Marauder. To me, this is Blackfoot at its peak. Machine. Fantastic live album. And by the way, Matt did introduce me to this album. I've showed up a lot of albums today, but I had yet to own this until Matt had suggested it to me. And thank you for suggesting it to me, because this is a kick-ass album. Wonderful.
Yeah, the energy level is so high, both from the band and from the audience, and the audience is recorded hot on it, right? So
Yes.
it's loud in the mix, which is very cool. And I told you I was going to bring a few things here. So one thing that I think is really interesting is kind of tracking their career at that time, and then the impression that they were starting to make in the UK. So again, those three albums that, like you said, that the materials drawn from, that is certainly their commercial peak. It's my favorite period of the band. I think they had their strongest material then, and they're on an upward climb in general, but they're especially getting traction in the UK. And so I pulled out some Kerrang magazines just to show, like, in that time period, that they never got like a cover, but so this is in 82, early 82, right? And you got Meatloaf on the cover, and you've got Blackfoot exclamation point, as Kerrang used to do, right? So this is issue 10, and then five issues later, right there, they're on there again. So another
nice
feature, and here they've got, this is the tour. So they're now doing the tour from which the album was recorded. So this is that particular UK tour, and reading through these, you can see. So like they had a support slot for Scorpions, and we're starting to get momentum there. They were on the 81 Donington show. And got fairly warmly received, and that's sort of a weird that was rainy. That was the BOC against ACDC situation, and BOC had the big sound problems, and right after Abu Bashar had broken up. But they were on there, and then they do this headlining tour through the UK. Shorty Medlock dies after that, which we will talk about, I'm sure, as we talk about some of the songs. Ricky's grandfather, they were going to bring him over for the Reading Festival. So then they do the Reading Festival, and that's probably their peak period. And again, as you go through these other Kerrang, so this is later in '82. Again, they're getting a spot. There's a lot of color photos in here. Again in '82. So think of 5 different times in a 15-month period. Sorry, I'm off target here. They're at least getting named on the cover, and I like this one because it's got Maiden on there, and I believe Maiden was at that Reading festival that they played, and Howard Johnson in the Kerrang article, the writer there, said that he felt they even killed Iron Maiden, and Blackfoot had a reputation as being giant killers, right? They were the band you didn't want to have open up for you because they were such a good live band, but Iron Maiden got along well with them. So to your point, John, right, about how they can open up for Accept, right? Even though they're this Southern rock, somewhat boogie band, they can totally, match the energy and just feel of these harder rock bands. So Maiden had Charlie, Ricky, and Greg all come up on stage, and they played Tush from ZZ Top during that. And I guess they had done that prior on a show in France as well. And this is the last one of this run of Blackfoot appearing on the cover of Kerrang. And then it peters off, right? So then, that ends up being probably the peak for the band. Commercially, they do, they make some changes after this. So there's the personnel changes like we just talked about, and they maybe AOR up their sound a little bit. They despite that great reputation and excitement that they had on that UK tour, overall the album sales didn't match it, and overall the headlining opportunities in the US didn't really get to grow, and so they kind of slide, but commercially at least. And so this album was wonderfully timed, right? Because it is in some ways right when things were, about the highest they got while it was still going up. And it is the original 4 members. It's the classic lineup. They've put out their 3 signature albums, so they're pulling material from their strongest albums put together. And I'm just thankful that it was recorded, and we have this document to go back and listen to for when you want to sell people on the unique band that Blackfoot was. They self-describe themselves as that they've got kind of one foot in the Southern blues rock tradition and another foot in the British blues-based harder rock bands like Free and Cream and stuff like that. They were big fans of Ricky was, for sure, and so they had that combination that really set them apart from, for sure, their Southern rock peers. And then I think the UK was enjoying the novelty of some genuine American Southern root-based but hard rock music, and they had sort of the kind of I think their genuine integrity. And Ricky's growing up, is again his grandfather Shorty Medlock. He's a bluegrass musician, played every instrument. He's the inspiration for Skynyrd's Ballad of Curtis Lowe, right?
Yep.
And so he had that sort of genuine true American music upbringing. He brings that on stage with all his British band influences, and I think that was a novelty for those UK audiences. And then just there's they were just such a great live band that they loved him.
You could hear why they loved him, because not only are they so fantastic live, very tight, very energetic, Ricky has a ton of charisma on here. He's ad-libbing along the songs. He's getting the crowd really into it. The crowd singing "Good Morning" right back to him, and
Yeah,
it sounds so loud, even though they're playing Hammersmith Odeon, which isn't too big, but it sounds more like 10,000 people instead of two. Here's something I'd like to ask you, Matt. They hit this certain point here in the United States as far as popularity, and between changing trends and a change in their sound on Syoga, their popularity dropped pretty quick. Do you think that if these albums, Strikes, Tomcattin, Marauder, Highway Song Live, if they came 2 years earlier, say instead of 79, they come in 77, and then we get this in 80, do you think they would have struck a bigger chord here in the United States?
maybe a little. You know, I I'm a little bit skeptical. I love Blackfoot. They are my favorite Southern rock band, and I think there was a cap on popularity of Southern rock. So I don't know that there was going to be that much more, right? If they're timed that way, right? I just don't think there was that much more momentum for Southern rock,
Okay.
anyways, right? And so I think they'd have, maybe they'd have. I mean, it was a struggle for all of their contemporaries. Skinner's the only Southern rock band, unless you count like Allman Brothers as is that thing. But of that, the ones that came in Skinner's wake, none of them really got that the gold ring, right, of the headlining
True.
thing. So Outlaws, Molly Hatchet, Blackfoot are all in that tier below Skinner in terms of popularity, and it's why, right, you get an amazing version of Skinner when you had Huey Thomason and Ricky Medlock and Skinner, like that really
Right.
rejuvenated them. They had come back great and they had a lot of energy, and it was kind of petering off, but when they got back in, then their live shows got a lot better again. So the talent level was there. That wasn't a problem. But I just think the overall commercial appeal. I think Skinner was a one of one for being able to be at that top level. I think there was probably only room for one, and they got it. And the different, if I look at it objectively, the overall difference between Skinner and those other bands is the songwriting. So Ronnie Van Zant had a truly unique voice. The songwriting in Blackfoot, it's Ricky Medlock and Jackson Spires are the two songwriters, but every album has covers for the most part, right? Like they're um, not as prolific and probably not as versatile as Ronnie, and not as meaningful, right? Like there's only their songs are a little less dimensional than his were from a lyrical standpoint. I mean, the
Oh,
music's
yes.
unbelievable. So and I think that's true for all of them. I think the Outlaws ultimately and Molly Hatchet don't have the level of consistent songwriting that Skinner did, which is why they were at the top. And again, I think there probably was only room for the one. And because Blackfoot straddled, right? Like so, then the question is, could they have made it as could they have gone further in the heavy rock wave, right? Because they're basically riding new wave of British heavy metal enthusiasm and coming over
Thank you.
and really working into that and fitting really well. So maybe the question is, instead of if they didn't go as AOR, would it have been interesting? They're doing shows with those with Maiden, with Samson's opening up for them on the shows that these are from, right?
Okay.
So you've got these new, they're touring
Nice.
with those bands. They're going over with the audiences that are loving the new wave of British heavy metal. So could they have gone heavier, right, and put out something to fit into there? I mean, that had a shelf life as well, but I don't know. I don't know. Those are the fun what ifs that we can play.
Yeah, and then another thing I was thinking about when I asked that question is they made those first two albums, No Reservations and Flying High, and they're decent Southern rock albums, but they don't have the conviction that would come starting with Strikes. They weren't as heavy. I mean, they're decent. There's good songs on them, but not, they're just, like a 5 or a 6 out of 10.
Yeah, yeah. You can hear like on the heavier parts, you see the seeds of what's gonna be there, but they weren't leaning into it, and they're definitely not recorded to showcase the heavier parts of the band, right? So the production makes them sound smaller as well,
Right.
and yeah, they hadn't hit their shot. And then, it was a tough go for them to get even to there, right? Like there's a quote in I think one of the magazines where they talk about when they did start to break with those three albums, how they were an overnight sensation 10 years in the making, right? And
Right.
they had, the lineup changes, and Ricky's in Blackfoot, then he goes to Skinner, he goes out, they move to New York, New Jersey, they come back, I think they're in Georgia for a while, right? North Carolina, they're in North Carolina for a while. So with different configurations, right? And so there was definitely a searching that has to, what's the Blackfoot
No
song?
pun intended.
That has to, that they had to go through to, I think, you know, get that identity, which is, a lot of bands have to do that, but they did it over a long period of time, and were, in a struggling period of time, right? They didn't have any albums out. They didn't have a record contract. And yeah, those first two don't, it's definitely a pretty drastic change going from album 2 to 3.
Yes, definitely. And the sound and the quality.
Yeah.
So on this album, I love the slide playing on here throughout too. That's a very strong aspect of their sound.
Yeah, yeah. And so you got two guitarists, right? So you got Charlie Hargard and Ricky Medlock. They both play lead. Um, I never got to see the original four members of Blackfoot play together. I did get to see also in the '80s. So after when they had the split, I got to see one of those one of the Southern Rock Review type shows, and so it had the other three members
Okay.
of them, and then it was with other Southern rock people. So like Dave Flubeck from Molly Hatchet
Right. Okay.
was there. The Outlaws played on the show. They weren't in that band, but they had the Outlaws. I think this is pre Skinner getting back together, if I'm remembering the timing right. So it's just kind of people filling for the fans of the genre that were around, kind of filling that. So got to see them. So, but I don't always know who's playing what on this album, right? So I never got to see, other than when you watch it's like the Zurich videos, you can see from the time period some of who plays what leads. But I with the slide and in between some of the songs or the intros of the song,
Right.
you get some cool noodling too, right? Like
Oh my
there's where
gosh.
it's just a single guitar, and I think that is Ricky, but he's just wailing as he then kind of then leads you into what's going to be the next song, which I love. But it's not over the top, right? It's
Right.
not like a 2 minute or plus solo. It's just this. I don't know how long they are, but like these 20-30 second thing a few times on the album. Some have slides, some don't, and it just sounds so great.
Yeah, the opening guitar solo that opens every every man should know Queenie is fantastic.
Yes, exactly, exactly. Um, that was the one I was thinking of. And then
Okay.
when they come out of Road Fever, he kind of almost does a very similar thing where he's got this similar solo like it. It's different, but it is sort of the same type of feel. And it all I feel like it's just like he can't stand still, right? He's so full of energy for this music that we're filling all the gaps, right? Like there's not going to be any downtime. We're going to rock the whole show.
No doubt about it. So, what do you think are some of the highlights on this album?
Um, so I like, like songs that weren't maybe the biggest one. So for Train, it's great and everything, but I think it's almost too fast, right? For it, so I think it actually lose some of the heaviness. But that's how they played it live, and it totally works in the live setting. It's just not as, I think, great for your living room listening
Right.
at this point. Um, but I really like, I mean, I love, the start, right? So that you get the two Tomcattin songs. So gimme, and every mention though Queenie. I think those raise the level of the studio versions, maybe the most of these ones. You get the drumming is fantastic. It's fast. There's cool ride cymbal stuff going on. And so I think those ones are really elevated. Good Mornings was already heavy, right? Like that's their
Right.
heaviest song of this time period. It's a metal song. It's really arguably their only true 100% metal
Right.
song. And so that one doesn't get as elevated because it was already there. So I really love those. I think Dry County, they do a great rendition of, and that probably elevates. Fly Away, I love all the oh yeah, you mentioned this. So like his Ricky's charisma, right? So the
Right.
patter, like even within the songs, right? Like so Fly Away's got some great little, almost little spoken word type parts, and I just love the way he addresses the audience, and like
Mhm.
on Queenie, right? Like where he's just going, fellas, and he's giving the fellas all of that, and ladies, and then he gives the lady, some man messes with your man, and he's just, it really comes across. Um, he's making a personal connection with the members of the audience, and it's a combination of, to me, I find him funny, charming, and rocking all at the same time, right? It's funny, but not in um, like it's funny in a night out on the town to go see a rock show. Funny, not in a satirical way, or not in a way like they're coming across bad. He's cool. Everyone wants to be hanging out with him
Yeah.
in that audience, right? And it comes across.
Yeah, and you're talking about his rapport with the men and women in the audience. That definitely comes out on Queenie as well.
Yeah, yeah. I really love that.
Oh yeah, and I think Row Fever really kicks ass on here as well.
Yeah,
Even
again,
more
heavier.
riveting, that heavier than the opening track that it was on Strikes.
Yeah, and Strikes is probably the least heavy of those three albums
I
overall,
would
right?
agree
So
with
they
that.
were kind of increasing in heaviness. So the the, you know, you just get that one right, and Train and Highway Song are the three Strike songs on it, and that's the one that got heavied up. I almost wish that there had been some more Strikes material on the album, just to see how they were playing those. They would always play like Wishing Well almost every time I saw them. The two times I saw them, they
Right.
played that both times. There were other songs that they would play from Strikes, made it into the repertoire. I don't know if they were playing them on that tour. I suspect they probably were. They were headlining, so the show was probably longer than what we got.
Well, I'm glad you brought that up, Matt, because I looked up the set list from the
Good.
Hammersmith.
I want to learn. I want to learn. This is interesting to me.
Okay. Well, the set list from Hammersmith Odeon, and for those of you who've been following along with the live cut series, yet another show that was recorded, or a lot of it was recorded at Hammersmith Odeon. We talked about Whitesnake live in the heart of the city. We talked about Sensational Alex Harvey Band live. So we've been hitting Hammersmith Odeon quite a bit here. And as well as Michael Schenker Group, Rock Until You Die. That was also at Hammersmith Odeon.
Oh,
So
very cool.
that
Very
just
cool.
happened in the last 6 to 8 weeks. everyone who's been on has been suggesting these albums, and I'm like, oh, another one from Hammersmith. And I'm doing my research here, and I'm like, oh, more Hammersmith. Okay. But now I'm gathering between what you told me and what I looked up on Setlist FM, this is mostly from Hammersmith because they opened with Gimme, Gimme, Gimme that night, April 27, 1982. And then they played On the Run. And then the third song, yeah, we got On the Run on here. Next song is I Got a Line on You, the Spirit cover that is on
Strikes.
Yep. And then tracks 4 and 5 would have been, and they played them in the exact order here. Let me see here. 4 and 5 probably would have been Every Man Should Know and Good Morning. Track 6 was Wishing Well.
There we go.
It's the free cover. And then we're going into Dry County. And then Left Turn on a Red Light, which I think is one of the best songs they ever did, period.
Yeah, it's got such a cool, that one's a little groovier, right? Like then, and again, another Strikes one. So
exactly. And then it looks like we probably went into Rolling and Tumbling off that after that. And then we go into Searching, the wonderful ballad that closes Marauder. Yes. And then, which was almost a top 100 entry in the US. We talked about Fly Away too. That nearly hit the top 40. We had 2 top 40 hits. And I know I'm going a little off track here. 2 top 40 hits from Strikes, their biggest hit, Highway Song. A lot of people say that's their Freebird. And then, of course, Train Train, which was covered by Warrant in 1990 off of Cherry Pie. They did a decent job, but, it's not going to touch the original. Anyway, I digress. Then they went into Fox Chase.
Oh, man.
That would have been
that's one of my favorite ones. You get, and that's a great one live, right? Because you get that the extended lead break and the rhythm playing under the lead break is so cool, right? Both the guitar and the bass part on that, and it's one of those things that it feels like it's one of those patterns that feels like it keeps going up, even though it's like a little bit of an audio illusion. So I love the lead breaks on that. So, boy, I would love to hear that one from him.
What if they start with the banjo? Oh wait, or I'm thinking of Rattlesnake Rock and Roll. Okay, my bad.
Yeah, you get so the shorty ones, right? You get the Fox Chase. You get is shorty on the banjo, right, in the beginning.
Yeah, Fox.
Right, because he's talking to Fox Chase. Yeah, because he's talking about his dogs, right?
Right.
He talks about his hunting dogs on there, and he does a little dog call, and then he goes into the playing.
Nice. And then we go into Too Hot to Handle.
Yeah, so there's a lot that's not on this album that they played on that show. Oh,
and
gosh.
I believe the rest of the album went the same from Road Fever till the end. We had a drum solo on there as well. And Rattlesnake Rock and Roll actually closed the encore.
Okay, so they come back after probably the Hueda Lads and give you one more.
Exactly. And it makes sense that because out of the way that ends the album, that would be something that would sing so the guys would come back out.
Yep, for sure.
Nice. So it brings me to my next question here. If for this original album we got 2 blues covers, popular blues covers, and Rollin' and Tumblin' and Trouble in Mind, do you think the album would be a little bit stronger if we had Blackfoot songs in there instead? Even though he's Rollin' and Tumblin'.
Yeah, I mean he does, right, and it connects him again, I think, to his personal musical heritage. There's I've heard some other versions, right, where he talks about being taught those by Shorty. So, but yes, it would have been stronger with Blackfoot songs, right? There's been lots of great versions of those songs. They're great. I think they're fine for doing in the live shows. For sure they do. I enjoy the version. I don't mind having them on there. If it's going to stay as a single album, Blackfoot songs, and you just named more than a half dozen, I think, contenders that would have I would have rather have had.
I would, if it was me, which ones would I pick? I'm going to go with two that are originals and not covers too. So as much as I
Yeah,
version of Wishing Well, I'm going to go with Left Turn on a Red Light. And I just like, I love Too Hot to Handle. I think that song kicks ass.
yeah, those would be great choices. I think I would do Left Turn, and then I would do Fox Chase for sure.
Fox Chase.
That's one of my favorite Blackfoot songs. So that would be on there, and then the Left Turn would be kind of a left turn, right? So that would be a mood breaker as well because it's a
Right.
little different than some of the other material that's on the album. So,
Yeah.
but any of them I would have preferred.
Right. And the thing is, outside of maybe, let me see, probably Fly Away, most of this album is pretty kick ass. Like as far as the tempos and all that.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, I mean they're really hitting, right? Like they the energy level again is just so high throughout. It's pretty relentless. And I guess in our what if world, in our fictitious version of this, where we're getting the double album version of this, then I think it would be even more important to have some different pace in there, and then these blues ones too probably serve a bit, more important purpose of breaking things up a bit more.
Particularly Trouble in Mind, because the version of Rollin' Tumblin' is pretty relentless, but Trouble in Mind, they start out pretty hot and then they slow it down more like a blues song.
Yeah, exactly. That's right. Yeah, I was actually looking at the timing of it. It's like 2.5 minutes of heavy blues rock, and then it's like a minute and a half of the more. It's not acoustic, but it's played like the way you do an acoustic version of it, and it's pretty much just Ricky playing at that point. The band kind of drops off, and he dials down the guitar and uh, volume and distortion, and it is more of a acoustic-y feeling. It's as acoustic as they were going to get as a live band then.
Exactly. Of the three big albums, it seems we agreed which three are the best. Which
Oh yeah, yeah. Those are. I think those three are the best.
What's your favorite of the three?
Well, it's hard for me to be, and I do. I've got my vinyls for these. So
Oh, nice.
these are the ones that I bought in the '80s.
Ah,
And it's hard for me. I think I think the quality is pretty even across all of them. I have a soft spot for Strikes.
okay.
And I can't. Um, you can't go back. It being my first one that I bought, right, and it's the one that I listened to the most, and it does have. You can get. There's a reason they closed all their regular sets. That Train and Highway song is their Sweet
Right.
Home Alabama and Freebird, right? Like those serve this. They use them the same way in their live shows. Um, they are pretty awesome, right? Like I mean, you hear them on the radio. You probably don't need to hear them as much, and you'd rather get some deeper cuts. But they are pretty special songs. And I even though you get the covers on there, I do love their version of Wishing Well, and they elevate the spirit song, right? So that would be it. If I'm not saying that, then I'd probably go Marauder. I kind of like just I kind of like the way I think they're finishing off the real heavy bit to it. So I mean, having Good Morning on there, I love Dry County. Uh, Fire the Dragon is really different, right? So now again,
Oh,
they are kind of stretch out on the songwriting a bit
yes, they
there.
are.
Diary of a Working Man as well. So I actually think Marauder is a better album, and I think Strikes is my favorite. How about
Okay.
that?
All right. Well, my favorite's Marauder for the reasons you said. I think it's the best album song wise, but Strikes is really close. And Tomcattin's the heaviest. and that's really close too. But for me, it's Marauder because you got songs that are wicked, you got songs that are really catchy, you got a great moody song there, and Diary of a Working Man, which works out wonderful. Searching's a
Yeah,
ballad that closes it. Fly Away is very, very accessible. It's got a wonderful bridge on it. Paying for It, I think, kicks ass. I saw them do that live.
oh nice.
That's a great song that goes over live. So it's tough. Like they're all like nine and a halfs to me, but and it's so close. But I'd probably go Marauder, and I go Marauder, Strikes, and Tomcattin. But again, there's so little separating.
Yeah, very very little to choose between them, right? It's a testament to their you know um their peak period, right? They got 3 albums out of their peak. Like that's pretty that's not bad at all, right? And there's things to like in what comes before and what was before, and there's things to like in what comes after. I liked was it After the Rain. So when they did, it's kind of in between all these different versions, right, of Blackfoot, but the after the breakup, before he creates the new version. So it's after Ricky Medlock and Blackfoot, the '80s version, before the creating um, the Blackfoot brand, where he's just creates
Native.
a new
Okay.
version. Yeah,
Right.
they had a couple 2 albums, I believe, and on a smaller label, right? So After the Rain, that one's really good. Um, but yeah, to me, it's those three were really good. And I hold that, like, we want to talk about the Southern Rock Pantheon, right? Like I think that is you know stands shoulder to shoulder with a Skinner 3 album run. Like
Nice.
like I think they can stand respectfully next to Skinner there, and
I agree with that.
definitely better than anybody else's, right? Like it's better than any of the runs that like the Outlaws had, and or Molly Hatchet had, um, in my opinion.
Right. Yeah, and a lot of people would consider the Allman Brothers Southern rock band, and they are actually my second favorite band, period. But I don't consider them a Southern rock band.
I don't either. I don't either. And and they yeah, I don't either. And and labels are just labels, or whatever you choose to make them
You're
mean.
right.
But if you talk about what the Allman Brothers do, they're doing something different, right? Like um their musicianship is superior to any of the other Southern rock bands, right? The jam nature of them, the improvisation of that band, right? It's serving a different purpose,
It
right?
is.
Like what they're doing. They don't rock like Blackfoot, right? So,
No, they don't rock.
but Blackfoot doesn't jam like the Allman Brothers. So they're whatever you call them. Those are 2 different types of band. I get something totally different out of Blackfoot than what I get out of the Allman Brothers.
Right. And the Allmans are more versatile musically, and they were changing their sound as time went on when people passed away.
Yep.
It went more from like a blues sound to like a country sound. But in the live shows, there was just so much. Like when Dickie Betts was really taking over as a songwriter, I mean, he always had the great instrumentals that were very jazzy. But when he took over as the main songwriter from Greg, they were they were more country tinged songs.
Yep. Because that was what he had in him.
Right, exactly. Whereas with Greg was more of a blues guy who sounded like an old blues man when he was singing when he was like 21,
Right. Yeah, but he was born an old soul.
Exactly. So, Matt, what would you give this album on a scale of 1 to 10?
So I would put it at like those other, like the 3 albums. So I think you're 9.5 on those other albums. I think that's appropriate. I don't think it's quite a 10. I think
Right.
maybe if we had subbed out maybe those in our edited version, where we got to cherry pick 2 other songs they were doing on that tour, and that would put it there. But it's for me, it's as good as live albums get, right? Like those are tough to pull out a perfect 10 on,
Right.
and that's what makes them so. I think you get enjoyment out of live albums that are good, that are higher than their rating, right? Because
I
there's
agree with
a
that.
you get to feel like you're there, and especially for the ones who wasn't there. That would have been amazing to have been in the UK when they were hitting this hard and were doing so well. And I like to go into my own head and listen to this album and picture myself there and feed off of the crowd, feed off of the band. So I've never gotten tired of this album. John, I was thinking, one of the things that's weird about this. Sorry, I just want to. This popped in my head. I forgot to bring it up. Is that they I don't know that this real until the Wounded Bird release, right? I'm not sure that may have been the first U.S. release for it. So in some of these articles, they talk about how they're releasing only in Europe. And Ricky has this quote, and maybe this is kind of a good quote as kind of a summation, is that said we're waiting to see if the U.S. kind of deserves it, and we want them to really want it. And maybe ultimately the U.S. didn't, but that was our loss, right? Like
Absolutely.
we should all have wanted this album, and to have had it been successful and gotten a wider distribution would be how I would sum it up, right? This album warranted more exposure. I think Blackfoot as a band did, and wish they got a longer ride at that peak period.
I'm glad that you mentioned that, Matt, because when I was doing my research, I looked on All Music, which I normally find very accurate. And I'm a all music junkie since the late 90s. It's how I discovered so much good stuff. It said, too bad it wasn't released till 20 years later. And I'm thinking, that doesn't make any sense. They were on a major label. And then I was reading some other articles, and it said it came out on Atco. So I was thinking it came out on Atco, but the record label just buried it and didn't give it any push. But I
Yeah, and my
could be
and
wrong.
my release, so and I bought this at it um, in the '80s, but it was I had to buy it as an import,
Okay.
and so it is on Atco, but it's got a Germany and France stamp and label on it. So
Okay.
it's not a U.S. It's
Gotcha.
not a
Okay.
U.S. release, at least what I've got. So kind of
Right.
interesting.
So yeah, so I think you definitely answered the question. We never got a US release because mine is a Wounded Bird version. So okay, so that would make sense then. So yes, we released in 82, but not in the United States till 2002. I go 9 for the reasons you said, Matt. I think it's a kick-ass album. The performances are fantastic. They picked most of the songs I would pick, and I would like to kick ass Blackfoot songs in favor of Rolling and Tumbling and Trouble in Mind. I wish it was a double. Here's the thing: like if it was a double and you kept those blues songs in and you had it like that set list that I was talking about from Hammersmith, I don't know. I'd probably give it a 10. I mean,
Yeah,
I guess I'd have to hear the performances first, but
yeah.
if they're
I
anything
I
like
bet they were
these,
good. I bet they were good.
yeah, I'm sure. I mean, considering how many times we've seen them live and they always delivered live, yeah, I'm with you on that. Yeah, it'd have to be a 10.
I've
So,
got I've got I've got a in my I haven't listened to these in a long time, but I've got cassettes from like live shows that were done around there. So in '82 and stuff that are full
okay.
shows and right. So I haven't heard a bad show from the bands.
And
Yeah, I think it was good.
yeah, and do you know who they opened for in 82 in the US? I only found this out recently from Setlist FM.
I don't think
Well, he's
I
still
don't
around, but
know.
he's more Brandon Band these days.
I'm sorry, he's more what?
Brandon Band. He's more known for what he says than
Oh,
his music.
Nugent.
Yep.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. And in fact, that's comes up in some of these as well. Okay, yeah, that makes sense. But they were they could you saw right that they can span like they would go over very well with a new gen audience, especially at
Oh
that
yeah.
time, and they can match his energy level.
Yeah, because yeah, he's another one I've seen 4 times live, and he always brought it.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. So it's those they're among those bands that were that were um, they over to the extent that they made it, it was through relentless touring, right? So
Exactly.
the lot of shows under the belt,
Mhm.
and that's what they for. It's what a lot of some of their songs are about and everything, right?
That's true
Or
too.
so it's appropriate. Interesting.
Yeah.
That would have been. I wish I could have seen again. I wish I could have seen the original four all together. That would have been
Oh my
really cool.
gosh, yeah. No doubt about it. So this is Blackfoot Highway Song Live, originally released in 1982. Oh, is that a kick-ass shirt? Did you pick that
This
up
is
in the eight? Oh,
Yeah, this is. So it's so funny. They were obviously trying to stretch the merch budget, right? So it's the
right.
tour 84 to
Yeah,
89
look at that.
on there. So this was when I saw them, and again, I'm not sure what this is. Probably 80. Now that I think about it, it's probably 85 that I saw them. I'm guessing I couldn't fit in the show. I would have worn it, but I was not going to fit in that shirt today.
Well, I certainly, I mean, totally different person now. Skinny fit back in the 80s. But those days are over. But this is a kick-ass live album. It doesn't get enough love or recognition now. To all of you out there, are you a Blackfoot fan? And if you are, have you heard this album? What are your favorite songs on this album? Do you think this should have been a double album instead of a single? What are your favorite Blackfoot songs? Have you seen them recently? They've done a lot of touring here in the United States in the last 10 years, even though more often than not, we didn't get Ricky Medlock in the band. He owns the name. He puts the band out there while he's playing with Leonard Skinner and playing to much bigger crowds. Please let us know in the comments what you think of Blackfoot and this wonderful live album, Highway Song Live. Matt, thank you so much for joining me today and joining me and introducing me to an album that does not get enough love, Blackfoot, Highway Song Live.
Thanks so much, John. I appreciate it. This was a blast. I knew it was going to be.
Awesome. I knew it was going to be too. What do you have going on the horizon right now, whether you're talking about music or Critical Hit Parader?
Yeah, so Critical Hit Parader is my weekly newsletter. So it is a free newsletter on the intersection of music and tabletop role playing games. And so often we'll cover things that are of interest to people who are interested in both of those hobbies. And so album cover artwork, fantasy authors that influence both music and tabletop role playing games, musicians who play tabletop role playing games, and bands whose music is influenced by the games that they play. It's a free weekly newsletter. You can go to criticalhitparader.com, and that's sort of the my regular thing that's been going on for 3 years. So if that's of interest at all, I'd love to have you check it out.
Excellent. And I definitely will check it out. Thank you again for joining me, Matt. And thank you all so much for joining us today. Do what you love, and we'll talk to you soon.